Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening. You've reached the September 13th edition of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Hello, everybody.
And we have another amazing show for you tonight. Tonight, we have our two guests at the beginning who are authors. And then for the second half of the show, we'll be doing our book club Kickback with author Brandon Massey, and we have several book clubs participating. So that's going to be an interesting discussion. But first, I have one housekeeping note, and then we're giving away 2 books before our first guest comes on. For those of you who want to know about the schedule for the National Black Book Festival, we have the hour-by-hour schedule online now. So if you go to nationalblackbookfestival.com, at the very top in the middle, it says the hour-by-hour schedule. You click here, it says here, and then you just click over. You can see the whole schedule and everything that's going to be happening for that weekend. And tonight we have 2 books to give away. These are advanced reading copies. So the first one that we're doing is called The Essential Dick Gregory. It's written by one of Dick Gregory's children, Christian Gregory.
Nice.
And this comes out in October. So this is not out yet, not released yet, but it's an advanced reading copy. So the question to get this book is, the author is Dick and Lillian Gregory's blank child in terms of birth order. So is it the first, second, third, fourth, whatever? Which in the birth order, Christian Gregory is which child of Dick and Lillian Gregory? So if you get that answer, you get this book. And this book is called Anywhere You Run. It's a mystery by author Wanda Morris. This is also an advanced reading copy. And this comes out in October as well. So the main character in this book is named Violet. And she has an older sister. What is her older sister's name? And if you answer that correctly, you get that book. So we have an amazing lineup tonight. Our first guest is Sharon C Cooper. She is a multi-published author. And then our second guest is going to be Catherine Adele West. So for right now, we're bringing on to the screen Sharon C Cooper. And she is multi-published. She has a brand new book that just came out last month. It's called Casino Heat. Nice. And she is an independent and traditionally published author with 38 books.
Okay.
When I grow up, I want to be like her. I need to get up to, I need to, you know, I'm waiting to get to 20. I'm at 14 and 20 is my goal. I don't know when though. I don't know when I'm going to get there. So anyway.
I know why is 20 your goal?
I don't know. It just sounds like a good round number, you know? So anyway, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV, Sharon. If you can unmute your mic. Oh, there you go. So we can hear you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
And congratulations on your latest release.
Thank you.
Casino Heat. And if you have a copy, would you like to show it to us? Do you have a copy of it? Okay, yeah, your books, I've noticed and I've been noticing your books for quite some time. Just we hadn't had you on the show yet and wanted to have you on. But your books have a certain look, and it's good to have a signature or brand, so when people see your books, they know whose book it is. And I'm trying to, your books, they normally are in some kind of a color. Normally the person on the cover is not like face front. It's normally in the background.
Yeah. especially my indie books, because there are not a lot of stock photos to choose from for Black authors, in my opinion. I oftentimes have my cover designer to not necessarily get the whole face or show the whole face of the model, I guess you could say, just in case that the photo has been used numerous times already. I wanted to still be a little different for my cover. Yeah, so that's usually my reason for not always showing the model's face totally, I guess you could say.
It
Well,
brings an air of mystery to it, I think.
it does. It does.
Yeah, I think so.
Mhm. And you have brought up something that is a point that a lot of people may not be aware of when you're doing independent publishing. If you want humans on your cover, you normally, unless you're going to pay some models to do a set, which can be extremely costly to try.
Very.
First, you
very,
have to identify some models, pay
right.
them their hourly rate minimum. Then you got to find a photographer who's good, get studio time, set time. It would be cost prohibitive. So people use what's known as stock photos for the people who may not be aware. And what stock photos are is they're offered by a number of companies that will make photography available, photographs available to the public at a inexpensive price. And they're called royalty free, which means you don't have to pay the person every time. You can publish up to a certain number without paying extra. But it's hard to find. There's not a lot of choices when you look through, like when you're scanning through, and what you do is you go to these sites, you put in what you're looking for. You can say, African-American, male and female, romantic, or some keywords, and then they'll give you your choices. And you may or may not have many choices. And like you're saying, because these photos are royalty free and they can be used over and over, you don't want to use a photo that's been used multiple times for other covers. Somebody say, I saw that on somebody else's book.
Was this your thought process as you were selecting covers, Sharon?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you were talking about.
It's kind of a challenge. It's kind of a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, you have been nominated for numerous awards and you won some as well. And one of them is the Beverly Jenkins Author of the Year Award. Now, who bestows that award?
Building romance around books. It's a book club on Facebook, pretty large book club on Facebook.
I've seen it.
And every year they do Reader's Choice Awards, and your readers nominate you or vote for you. And I was lucky enough to win this year's, or 2021, the end of 2021, win. So it's always an honor,
Right.
It's always an honor.
Right, it is.
Because there's so many authors out there, fabulous authors, and to receive an award like that means a lot.
Well, I like how you say you were lucky enough. So with all of the writing that you've done, you stay humble.
Oh yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Oh yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, and just being able to continue to do something that you love doing, and being able to receive monetary compensation for it is great. You're able to use your creativity. Now, tell us about, is there a particular running theme in your books? Like if somebody's going to read a Sharon C Cooper book, what can they look for? What can they expect? Do you have a certain running theme? You have a certain kind of character?
I would say that probably for probably all of my series, readers will notice a family theme. Even if the characters aren't, especially the series, they'll notice a family theme, whether the series is based on a family like my Jenkins family, or whether the series is based on individuals who have known each other for years, like the Reunited series and my Atlanta's Finest series. Those particular characters, the male characters, either served in the military together, which is the Reunited series, and have been lifelong friends. But they operate as like a family unit, basically. They're there for each other, support, give each other a hard time, the whole works. And that would be the same for my Atlanta's Finest series. They're not related, but they operate, well, I shouldn't say operate, but they get along as if they were blood related, you know, kind of being there for each other. Yeah. And then of course the Jenkins family is all about family. Yeah, good and bad.
So how do you come up with your ideas for your stories?
It varies. Sometimes I can just be sitting watching or looking at something, and then an idea will spark. Someone can say something and it's like, that might make an interesting story. And of course I'll throw my own twist on it. But the ideas just come from conversation, sometimes television shows. It could be a character I think that's fascinating. I'm like, I wonder how that character would be if, you know, and then I just kind of run with it like that. Or my siblings, you know, they're always offering suggestions. Hey, you should have a character that does this, or, you know.
I absolutely love the what if factor, you know, watching TV and like, what if it had turned out this way? Or when you think back on something, you say, what if I had said this instead of
Exactly. Exactly. You know,
you write an entire story.
Yep. That's what I say. Tell people, if I zone out while you're talking or looking like I'm off in spaces, because a story idea has
Wheels
started.
are turning.
Yeah.
That's fun. No, I mean, I think that's the fun thing about writing, is being able to create stories and being able to create a world beyond your present circumstance. I mean, for me, that's the fun part about writing. And I'm sometimes so convinced that many authors don't enjoy writing. They enjoy being authors, but I don't know if they actually enjoy the process of writing.
Interesting. Yeah, I enjoy actually making up stories. I think actually that's probably the best or the most entertaining part for me is the brainstorming, the coming up with the ideas and then hoping they work, you know, the way they play out in my head.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, did you start off as an independent author, or were you traditionally published first? And or how did your career occurred over like the course of time? You have 38 books, so how long have you been writing? When did your first book come out?
I've been writing as of this year 10 years, and that my first book came out April 10 years ago. What is it? April 2012? Yeah.
Right.
April 2012.
That's a lot of writing in 10 years.
Yeah.
That is.
And you know, you don't really think about it so much, especially early on. I was just enjoying it. I was really enjoying the process. It's like one of those things, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. So once I started really learning what I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to write, then it got a little more challenging because you're trying to insert, you know, certain techniques to make sure readers continue to enjoy the work. So the longer I write or the more I write, some days I'll admit it does feel like a job, but early on it was just fun, you know.
And there are going to be times when it feels like a job. I mean, I've been having this book in my head for the past month. I'm like, okay, I need to sit down and start writing it now.
Yeah. I get it. Or the ideas come while you're on deadline for a different
story.
It really gets challenging.
This is terrible. My ideas come while I'm at church. I'm sitting here trying to pay attention. All of these ideas hit my head.
I get it.
Well,
it's like once you sit still, once you sit still, you know. But
Turns
yeah,
out
I
it's real
started
people.
as a
So,
indie author.
Okay.
Okay.
And then an editor from Harlequin Kamani. They're no longer
Yes.
around, but
I remember
an
that.
editor from Harlequin Kamani contacted me, had a conversation. She said she had seen my book. It was my very first book, actually, Something New. She said she was hanging out on Barnes and Noble and ran across my book on their site and contacted me, asked if I'd be interested in writing traditionally. You know,
Now,
so I
see,
gave it a try.
that's something that a lot of indie authors dream of happening to them, that somebody just contacts them and says, what do you want to be a part of my publishing company? And then it's a huge publishing company that does it.
Yeah, it was
So
a shock.
do you feel that you positioned yourself for that, or was this truly a happenstance for you?
It was definitely a happenstance. I was perfectly comfortable being an indie author.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was building a following and it was going well, you know. And then when I heard from her, then I was like, oh, sure, yeah, I'd be interested in trying it, you know. And so I did a couple of contracts, and then I went, after the contracts were done, I went straight indie until recently, a couple of years ago, I signed a couple of more contracts,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and yeah.
And
Oh,
there you go.
yeah. So I might do a couple of traditional here and there, but I really do enjoy indie publishing, you know. Yeah.
Now tell us about the new book.
The new book, Casino
Heat.
Yeah, Casino Heat. I actually had planned to stop the Reunited series after book 4, but I received quite a few emails from readers asking if Hunter Graham, he was one of the brothers, he was the brother of one of the characters in the series, Malik Lewis. He was Malik Lewis, NBA playing brother. His you know, he's an NBA, his name is Hunter Graham, and he's an NBA star. And I had dropped a few nuggets into I think a couple of the last stories about him, about his backstory. I wasn't sure if I was ever going to write a story, but I did have an idea, you know, playing around in my head, but I just didn't have time to write a story. So I finally had a chance this year to write Casino Heat. And it's about Hunter Graham had been, he had a fiance shortly after, I think they got engaged, maybe around the time he signed with the NBA team in Los Angeles. And so he was engaged, and then all of a sudden his fiance broke off their engagement, just kind of out of the blue. She told him not to contact her. Wow. And that it was over. And so he was devastated. So after that, he was just done, you know, with women, as far, I shouldn't say women, but he was done with serious relationships. After that, he was just out to have a good time between women and gambling, basketball. That was all he needed. He did find out shortly after the engagement was broken that she had married his stepbrother. And he just couldn't understand it. You know, him and his stepbrother had a contentious relationship, and just the idea of her marrying him over, you know, Hunter, he just couldn't get with it, you know, and he never forgave her. In the story, you know, they are brought back together after his stepbrother dies, and puts her, Viviana, and Hunter in his will. And then things just get crazy from there.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're kind of brought together.
Lot of drama, but in a good
It's some drama. Yes.
It does.
Yeah, it's some drama because she was blackmailed into marriage. So
into marrying the stepson?
The
the stepbrother.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
He blackmailed her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So readers want to pick that one up.
Okay. Well, it sounds like somebody who's not very nice. But
yeah, that's saying the least. Yeah, he was a piece of work.
Oh, and I actually like that twist, because normally you see the woman who was kind of
Jilted.
left at the left at the altar. This
Yeah.
time it's the other way around.
She's
Yeah.
normally the one that's jilted.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, that's a twist on it. Not to say that you want somebody to be jilted, but it's
Mhm.
good to have a change, you know, of the victim.
Yeah, I always try to add some twist that readers will, you know, their mouth will drop open, or you know, they'll just be ready to throw their Kindle across the room or something, just to get, you know, get the emotions flowing, good or bad, you know.
Well, when you're reading a book and you express your emotions out loud while people are around, and you go, what, sometimes I do that. And, my daughter said, well, Mom, what are you, who are you talking to? So I'm
Yeah.
talking to this book.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it'll make you laugh out loud.
Mhm.
I like books where there's scenes that make me laugh out loud. Those
Yeah.
are really, I love those. too.
Oh yeah, same. Even with, just to mention one of a book I released in April, Business Not as Usual. That was a romantic comedy. And I literally, through some of those scenes, I literally laughed out loud while typing the scene.
That's fun. If it's hitting you like that, it's gonna hit somebody else like
Right.
You hope, because I know while I was
Right.
writing, I was like, I hope this is funny to someone else as it is to me, but I literally was laughing out loud. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't wait till they read this part, so.
Now, are your stories, because I read a lot, so some people write a back and forth narrative, like the present and the past. They'll go like one chapter is the present, next chapter is the past, and they'll go back and forth. Some stories are linear, in terms of time. It continues. Some stories are generational. It'll be like 3 generations of people. I don't like it when people have multiple generations and they go back and forth. That's hard to keep together unless the writer is very, very skilled.
Yeah,
Because it can get easily confused.
yeah.
So what's your writing style?
My style typically is linear. One, because I don't enjoy reading books that go back and forth in time. If it starts out with a prologue of something that maybe happened 6 months ago,
Right.
I'm totally fine with that. But then I want to go all the way through the story, because what happens is when you jump back, especially if you do it more than once in a story, you lose the reader. Well, let me rephrase that. I won't say lost, but it's like I'm taken out of the story. It's like some of them are so jarring too. And so I typically don't write those because I don't enjoy them. Every blue moon, I might, like I said, I'll do a prologue that might be like 6 months earlier or something like that. There's one book out of the 38, 39 now that I did do that. But it wasn't, I made sure it wasn't jarring and it was impactful, and it was a once in the whole story. It was an experiment, but I think it went over very well, but it's not something I enjoy reading, so I don't write it.
It has to be a very skilled writer to pull it off to where it just doesn't get like lost or jumbled. There's too many characters. It's too is the time changes. I mean, the time period, the characters.
Yeah,
they're young, they're old, they're kids, they're grown people, they're old people. It's just too much. I tried to read I won't say the book, of course. I recently tried to read a book. It's a new book, a fairly new book. I couldn't keep going. I got too confused.
yeah.
And it's, sometimes books are very, I find that the books that are overly hyped by the industry, I'm gonna say it like that. I trust readers more than I do the industry, because I know the industry has a monetary motive. Right. Readers, they'll tell you if it's good or not. And it's
whether you want to hear it or not.
Yeah. some people that like the similar books that I like, or they know that like similar writing stuff. If they say it's good, then I listen. But a lot of times it's just, I don't know what the editor was thinking, or I don't know what happened in the process of some of these books, because
Yeah.
I can't, they don't make sense to me. You know, maybe I'm slow. I'm not slow, but I'm just saying, maybe it's me.
You know, stories are subjective, you know,
They
which is good for
really,
some of
really
us, you
are.
know,
They really,
that is
really
something
are.
for everyone. But I'm with you. I prefer not to read those that go back and forth, because it just takes you out of the story. You get, you know, invested, and all of a sudden it jumps back, you know. So.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
but some
you
writers are
have,
good at it.
well, I was just gonna say, because we only have a few minutes left, but you have another romantic comedy, or wait, actually the new book is the one that's coming out in December, correct? The one
Right,
we just
right.
talked about. Okay.
Actually, the new one that's coming in December is a romantic comedy. It's In It to Win It.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, In It to Win
Okay.
It. That comes out December 13th.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now, is this a standalone, or is this a continuation of one?
Technically it's a standalone, but it does have a character from the romantic comedy that came out in April. I won't say they're necessarily connected, but a couple of characters in Business Not As Usual do show up in It to Win It, but it's not a series. It's not considered a series. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's make sure that we hold your book up again so people can see Casino Heat, which is the latest book, and it's available everywhere. I'm assuming that people can buy books, and it's available on Kindle and in paperback. And is it in audiobook form?
It is not in audio.
Okay. Are any of your books on audio yet?
I have a few that are in audio. A few of the Atlanta's Finest are in audio. Soul's Desire is in audio. And then I have and Business Not As Usual. So there are a few that are in audio. Readers can find all of my information, those books that are in audio, paperback, everything on my website at SharonCooper.net.
Okay.
And I was just going to ask how people can reach out. You just said it.
Yeah, they can visit my website at SharonCooper.net. They'll find my social media links, everything, how to join my newsletter. I offer giveaways just to my newsletter subscribers, so that's the perk, and usually sneak peeks that they'll get that no one else will get.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure talking with you today. You have the nicest smile. Just very friendly.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for the opportunity. It was great hanging out with you too.
Yeah, I've been seeing your name for a long time, and I'm glad we had an opportunity to talk to you and hear about the books and encourage people to support your work.
Thank you. Oh, and thanks for my shirt, Black Authors.
Yeah, I peeped it out. I was like, oh, wear her shirt today.
Oh yeah, definitely. Love it.
Well, thank you so much, and you have a great evening.
Thank you. You guys do the same, and thanks again for the opportunity. Bye.
Have a great night.
Thanks, you too.
All right. Well, we want to find out who won the books that we are giving away tonight.
Well, we only had one of the questions answered.
Answer this one?
No.
Okay, I saw that some more than one person answered the question about the older sister's name.
Yeah, but Stephanie was the one who got it first. She answered 4 minutes after the question was posted.
Okay, Stephanie, we haven't been hearing from you for a while, so welcome back. Stephanie Burnham, because I hadn't seen her for a few weeks, and so maybe she was on vacation. Anyway, Stephanie, this book is yours, and let me write that down so I can remember. And on during the second half of the show, we're going to be discussing The Exes by Brandon Massey. So he's going to be on for that. But our next guest is we're welcoming now Catherine Adele West. And we had 3 copies of her new book that we gave away three weeks in a row, The 2 Lives of Sarah. And she is going to tell us about that book and her other work and what she has going on with her writing. So, Catherine, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you so much for having me, Gwen. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you for having me as well.
So your book came out last week. It was released last week. I believe that was release date September 6th.
Yes.
So let's see the cover of your book. Do you have a copy with you?
Oh, yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I thought you had one, but yeah. Yeah. Here.
Okay. Well, we've been giving it away on the show, but we always like the author to hold their copy up because it just connects the authors with their book cover, rather than just having it digitally done. And it's a hardcover book.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because
it's a beautiful cover.
Thank you.
Yeah, very, very nice colors on it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah. Super vibrant. I love it.
Right. And we did, well, when we give books away on the show, we do it based on trivia questions about the book itself.
Ooh,
so
right.
One of the trivia questions was about the setting for the book, which I believe was in Memphis. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Early
Okay.
1960s Memphis.
Okay. And then I forgot what the other 2 questions we pulled from the synopsis.
1960s Memphis was an interesting time. I'm sure you had fun doing that research.
Yeah, I had some fun doing that research. I got mad doing some of that research.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely had fun. In particular, listening to and dealing with the music. Like 90% of it, like I know by heart. But there were definitely some songs that I wasn't aware of that I got to listen to and over and over and over again. And I had such a good time doing that particular bit of research. Also, like a lot of the food in the book, I ate a lot of the food.
Now, was that something, because often we don't really hear people talk about researching the food that was eaten at that time. So what made you decide to do that level of research?
Well, these are all like soul food dishes. So of course, like I knew about them. I've eaten them like hundreds of times. But since, we're dealing with a boarding house and a cook, I needed to be able to kind of, show like step by step a lot of the processes and things like that. Because like I can cook a few of those dishes, but mostly I just ate a lot of those dishes, right? So so when it came to, like I love hash browns, but like I don't really cook hash browns. Now, salmon patties, salmon croquettes, and all of that. Yeah, I know how to make that. My grandma taught me how to make that. Like I can make that right now. Right. But some of the things I didn't really know how to do when I got so in detail with it, like my editor had to cut some of the scenes. Like I had this whole paragraph about like how to clarify butter to make it hash browns crispier. I kid you not. Like it was like half cookbook, half
like Catherine, we get it. Okay.
You're like, I'm gonna have some hash browns tomorrow with some biscuits and gravy.
So they had to, that's where editor comes in. They might say this, sometimes you need to go in detail to embellish the story, but sometimes you
got to pull it back.
Not that much detail. So yeah. So in fact, the boarding house was one of the trivia questions as well.
Yes.
It was either the name of the boarding house or the name of the woman who ran the boarding house. So tell us about just the overall storyline of The 2 Lives of Sarah.
Oh, yes, ma'am. So The 2 Lives of Sarah takes place in the early 1960s, Memphis, Tennessee. And Sarah King is a woman who escapes from Chicago and goes to Memphis. So she goes from the north to the south, not the south to the north, in 1960s Memphis. And she's trying to escape a lot of her past and a lot of secrets. And she works at this boarding house. And I don't want to say the name just in case like people have to do the trivia question. So she decides to go work at this boarding house for this really wonderful woman in the community. I won't mention her name since that's also one of the questions.
Oh, we've
And-
already done it. So
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
yeah,
So
we did
Sarah
it and
goes
gave the
to
books
okay.
away. So you can say.
Great. So Sarah goes to work at a boarding house called the Scarlet Poplar, which is a boarding house for Black travelers
Okay.
in the 1960s, because, you know, still super segregated. So, you know, we literally can't stay everywhere.
Right.
So she goes to work for a woman named Mama Sugar, and, you know, becomes a cook in her boarding house. She has a son named Lebanon, and you really learn a lot about Sarah and her journey, and also a lot of things that are going on during the 60s. It's a book about love and loss, and, you know, the limits of resilience, and it's a story that I'm deeply, deeply proud of.
It's
Now,
such
how did
a
you come
beautiful
up with
story.
Scarlet Poplar? Did you just like pick that out of the hat, the name?
Well, it kind of has well, everything has meaning, but this has a specific meaning. The poplar, I believe, is like the state tree of Tennessee.
Okay.
And the scarlet poplar, it also has kind of like a double meaning, because, you know, the song "Strange Fruit" by Billie Holiday, when she talks about like the poplar trees.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then scarlet, which is like the color of blood, our people.
Okay.
So I just called it the Scarlet Poplar.
The Scarlet Poplar. Okay. You know, you just never know what people come up with ideas for, you know, what makes it come in their head, you know, different aspects of the book, different character names. Now,
Yes,
did
ma'am.
you spend any time in Memphis to do the writing, or did you like study videos, or what did you do for your storyline about Memphis?
Well, I wrote this story. I wrote The Two Lives of Sarah during the height of the pandemic. I had planned on going to Memphis. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out because, you know, we really couldn't travel. So what I wound up doing was I had a writer friend of mine who put me in touch with some wonderful people. And I jokingly say, like, I Isabel Wilkerson did a little bit. And I used kind of my journalistic roots and interviewed a lot of people about their time in Memphis, what they did in Memphis. During those times, I luckily had like some elders who were able to relay to me what happened during those times. And that really helped me, you know, get a more authentic feel, because like I have never, to this day, unfortunately, haven't stepped foot in Memphis, not yet. I will
Okay.
go. But unfortunately, like, you know, with the pandemic, I wasn't able to, but I was going to go and do like some historical tours and some cultural tours and eat a ton of food, like wear spandex so I could eat a ton of food. And, you know, and that was my original plan, but it ended up, you know, I had to do interviews, and I had already made sure to like read a lot of books and newspaper articles, academic papers. So there was like obviously a lot of research that went into it, because I wanted to absolutely portray this great city and the best way and the correct way. And some people who have read the book, who are from Memphis, said like I did a good job. So I was like, okay, thank you, because if y'all was coming to me like this wasn't what we want,
And they will tell you that, because I can't stand reading a book about New Orleans or that takes place in New Orleans and they got all of the stuff wrong, or the streets wrong, the food's wrong. They all think that we go to specific restaurants that we don't actually go to if we're from.
Yeah, because y'all know like the real good places. I'm like, you have this place that, you know, you looked up on like foodie.com, like
Right.
the real people will let you know, like they don't even season their food right. Like this is, you need to go to this place. That's my mama's friend. She's had this shack since like, you know, since 1978. That's where we go to get our po' boys. You have a good day. I don't know why you going to this place. You know what I mean? You saw this on a Food Network or something. Like that isn't where we go eat.
Two questions I did have for you as you were talking that made me think. The first question is, why did you choose to make the setting of your book a city that you've never been to? And then the second question, how much research, or not so much how much research, but how long did it take you to research this story before, or this city before you started writing your book? And I asked that question because Ta-Nehisi Coates, he said that he took 10 years to do the research before he wrote The Water Dancer. And I don't think it took you 10 years, but I'm just wondering how long did it take you until you said, okay, I have enough information.
Yeah, God bless the indomitable and iconic Ta-Nehisi Coates. No, like, I was legit, like I'm legit on a deadline, like so. Like I've been like, yeah, so can you give me this money? I got like, 10 years, like but I mean, it shows like The Water Dancer is a freaking masterpiece. Like, but in terms of let me answer the other question, and then if you can refresh my memory about the first question. So in terms of how much time it took me to research the book, I was researching the book for like a few months. I remember your first question. So in terms of researching the book, I researched it for like a few months. I'm not even gonna say that long. Because once again, I was on deadline. So I was doing my my interviews, I was reading the books and the newspaper articles and stuff like that as I was writing the book. Because I was on deadline. Like my debut novel, Saving Ruby King, took me 5 years to write. The Two Lives of Sarah, I had less than a year, and I wrote in 5 months. So like I was on a pretty strict timeline. So like I didn't have the luxury of once again, was going to go to the place to really get the feel for it. Pandemic shut that down. So I went ahead and did interviews, which I was going to do anyway while I was like down there. And then in terms of the books, like it doesn't take me a super long time to read, but I read different types of books. So like there was this wonderful kind of almost picture book of like different historical places in Memphis, Tennessee. I was reading this book called The Beale Street Dynasty that took place like a few decades even before like my book took place, but I wanted to kind of get a feel for the city. So when like I was mentioning politics and like stuff about Boss Crump, it was like stuff that I had learned from this particular book. So I was researching as I went along, but also, did research, like a month or 2 months before I started to write. So it was also a way of procrastinating because like when you have to start writing, you're like, oh my God, can I do this again? The reason I picked Memphis, you asked Rhonda why I picked Memphis. I didn't have no choice. What happened was when I wrote my debut, Saving Ruby King, The Two Lives of Sarah is kind of like a companion novel. It just plucks one of the characters from Saving Ruby King and tells you her story, but you can read the books in either order or not. You don't have to read one to understand the other, which is it's a little tricky to pull off, but it can be pulled off. I think I pulled it off. But when I was writing Saving Ruby King, this is like years ago, and I didn't know what I was doing when I was writing the book, if I'd even get it published or anything. So I just wrote what I thought were like a few throwaway lines, right? Like Sarah is sitting in this church and she's thinking about her time. I'm like, well, sounds like a good city. Memphis, okay. And I'm like just typing it, and I'm, there really wasn't a lot of thought behind it. It just sounded so pretty and so poetic when I was writing these few lines.
Right.
So when I was, talking to my editor about possible ideas for a second book, because they get like first dibs on my my work, I was like, well, I could write about Sarah, and she's like, that would be like a great idea. So, give us a few sample chapters and a book outline, and I'm like, damn, I know you're gonna go for it. Okay.
Sometimes the opportunity is thrust upon you when you don't expect it.
Oh yeah, that opportunity was thrust upon me, Miss Gwen. It absolutely was, because then I was like, I don't know anything about Memphis except for just the basic, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, the Lorraine Motel, like that was essentially, and they got good barbecue. That was essentially the breadth of my knowledge about this great city beforehand. Now I'm like, oh, you want to go to I Park, Orange Mound. We can go to, I'm like, I'm no, by no means an expert, but like when I go to Memphis, I won't be, just kind of like, I don't know anything. Like I
Right.
at least have knowledge.
You can
of the
probably show
city.
some people around Memphis and do a whole tour.
Oh no, I ain't saying all of that. All I want to do is go. I just want to go get a pulled pork sandwich and go to Makita's butter cookies and like call it a day personally.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about Sarah, because it's the two lives of Sarah.
Mhm.
So what are her two lives? Tell us. You don't have to. Don't do any spoilers.
Oh no. I want people to buy the book, so there's no way I'm doing spoilers.
Yes.
So, so the two lives of Sarah, it kind of talks about the past and the potential, right? So there are these things that have already happened to you that are shaping who you are, but the things that will happen to you later that might solidify or determine that shape. Like, how do those particular lives and lines meet, right? So, I had this life in Chicago and now I have this life in Memphis, and what's happened to my past will it dictate my present.
Mhm.
So it's kind of that fight, that kind of dichotomic crisis that's kind of in all of us. Like all of us kind of have like two lives. This person before like something big in our life kind of transformed us and made us who we are now as an adult, or the things that have transformed us and made us who we are in our lives as an adult.
Okay.
So that's kind of how
people will change locations to make a fresh start. That happens a lot in life. People do.
Exactly. For different reasons. Some people do it because like they want like a new opportunity. Sarah is doing it because she's trying to outrun something. But the thing is, you can't outrun something you're inherently attached to, which is who you are as a person in your past. Like you can't run from that. Like that's with you wherever you go. And sometimes people think like by changing a location or changing their name or that will somehow change
But if you
who
don't
they
change
are,
the mindset,
and that isn't the case.
Yeah, I say if you don't change the mindset, you can change the location, you can change the name, you can change the hairdo. I know I change my hairdo all the time. But
I can attest to that. Every week, I never know what hairstyle Rhonda's gonna have from week to week. She's creative like
I
that.
don't change the mindset though.
No,
I mean, hey, whatever you gotta do.
Right.
And sometimes, with the two lives, you just never know. Life, we're not the same it's kind of like each decade is different. When a person's in their 20s, I call the 20s a decade of adventure. That's when, people can do all kinds of stuff. You don't have that much fear. You're kind of fearless at 20. You don't know what you don't know. You're not wise enough to be scared of some stuff you really should be scared of.
Right.
But that's what happens in your 20s. And then in the 30s, people tend to be a little more settled. You're building your family, building your career, and that continues. So life is a continuum. And hopefully we're all growing as we traverse these short years that we do have.
Exactly.
Amen.
So you're born and raised in Chicago.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's where your setting for your first book was in Chicago. And for the second book, it starts in Chicago.
Well, actually it doesn't. It starts in Memphis.
So it just alludes to the fact that she left Chicago.
Yeah, and there are like a couple of throwback scenes of when she is in Chicago.
Okay.
So the story, like 95% of the story takes place
in Memphis.
Okay. And so you went to school in Illinois and everything. So you like Chicago is where your roots are, and Illinois is where is home for you.
Yes, ma'am. Period. Point blank. I love, I love to travel. I hate flying, but I love to travel, and I've been to a few different places, in the country, outside of the country. But Chicago is home. That's the home base. I don't planning on a movie. I mean, I travel, Viola Davis is like, hey, we want to make the Two Lives of Sarah movie. Great. I can be in LA in like 2.2 seconds and I'd stay as long as you want me to, but I will always ultimately come back home to Chicago.
And speaking of Chicago, you have an event in 2 days in Chicago.
Yes, ma'am. I will be doing a book event for the Two Lives of Sarah at Seminary Co-op on 57th and Woodlawn. I'll be in conversation with the wonderful Dr. Tara Betts, and we will be talking about the Two Lives of Sarah and my inspiration for the book. And, I hope a lot of people who are in the Chicago area come out. It'll be a really good time. I'm super funny and kind of cute. So, just come out. Like, not.
And you're very humble.
That's what people always say in joking. I'm just like, yeah, joke. I'm totally like, but I'm not annoyingly arrogant. Like, I'm just like, you just know if you got it, and I got it. So just, so I just live in that.
Enjoy life. I think too many times we dim our lights just to make other people feel comfortable. Girl, let your light shine.
Thank you. Let your light so shine. Let's go to
You have
King
lots
James
of
Version.
personality,
Yes.
So
Yeah.
let that personality shine through. Now you also are a writer. You've written for several publications.
Yes, ma'am.
So people start their writing careers. If they do books, a lot of times people don't start off writing books. They start off doing other writing. Some people do poetry. Some people do some people actually do academic work and then end up getting into more the commercial work for trade books. So tell us about your writing career in terms of writing for different publications and how that came about. How did you get started doing that? And how did the course of doing that, you got published in all these different magazines?
Well, actually, I started writing to get published as an author because I was told, like, you go into the writing community and they're like, it looks good if you have writing credits under your belt. So go get some writing credits under your belt. Because once again, like, I had no clue what I was doing. Like, the first book that I wrote ever was Saving Ruby King. Like I said, that took me 5 years. And once I started on that journey, like the publishing journey, you hear like, oh, just go get some, writing credits. And, so I was like, okay, let me see if I can go ahead and do that. So Black Fox Literary was, I think, the first magazine that took one of my stories, and it was literally a blog post about me writing Saving Ruby King at the time.
Okay.
And how, like, I hoped I really didn't screw it up because, this is the first book I'm writing, and, I'm portraying my community, and I hope I portray my community correctly. And so, and then I also did some flash fiction, which is like really short stories that are like about 1,000 words or less. And I got some of those published. Some poetry that's probably like so not all that good, compared to people who actually know what they're doing. But it was just something that I wanted to try because I don't like to creatively pigeonhole myself.
That's a very great intentional way to get started in the literary industry. Go ahead and do some shorter pieces, get some publishing credits under your belt, with the shorter pieces. And then once you've kind of built an audience and people are starting to recognize your name, you go for that book. It makes it so much easier for you to market that book once you're ready to get it out there.
But get this, like, it doesn't even have to be all that recognizable. It's just something that you're perhaps like with potential literary age, you can kind of be like,
right.
oh, like, oh,
yeah,
exactly. Like, oh, okay,
before.
yeah. So that's the reason I started. That's the reason I even had these credits, because my whole goal was to become a traditionally published author. And, you read, hey, just try to get some things published. And that's what I did. And I was successful. Didn't mean that I met a ton of rejection along the way. But, those few times somebody says yes, it motivates you to keep going. Because I can't tell you how many times I almost just threw in the towel and just gave up. Like, I don't care no more. Like, I'm just not going to do this anymore. And I had my head on my behind for, a few minutes, through about a 5-minute pity party for myself, and then got back to doing what I was doing. And I'm, happy that I kept with it, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have what I have. So, kudos to, perseverance, and also to having a really cool community and a really awesome supportive family who will be like, get your head out of your behind and do what you're supposed to do.
Absolutely. Now, we had one of the audience members ask, and I didn't hear you say this, but I could have missed it. We talked about your appearance in Chicago in 2 days. Did you mention something about being in College Station, Texas?
No, I've never been in Texas.
Okay. She asked if you were going to be in College Station, Texas. But I'm like, I didn't hear her say that, but I could have missed it.
No, I mean, trust and I believe, I wish I was one of those authors that could travel to all 50 states. But I normally, you pretty much are in your neck of the woods. Unless you happen to be going somewhere, like if I happen to be going to Virginia and there is a bookstore that wanted me to do a book event there and I was already going, I'm like, yeah, sure. But, if I ever find myself in Texas, absolutely. I mean, Texas got barbecue too. I'll go there. I'm no respecter of barbecue.
Texas has barbecue too. You know what? Don't say it like that to Texas people. And I'm not a Texan per se. I've been here a long time. We're serious about our barbecue.
No,
now,
I
the
know.
barbecue
I'm sure.
is different.
But you made it seem like they have barbecue too.
That's
hey, look.
that's like spitting on somebody.
No, I'm just saying, Texas has, good food. Any place that I know has good food, I'm going to.
Yeah, I'm playing with you, but we're serious about our barbecue.
Oh no, I know.
But there's different barbecues.
Different barbecue sauces. I mean, North Carolina, South Carolina barbecue sauce is not what Texas has. It's not what Memphis has. You know what I mean? Chicago, we even known for a white sauce. Personally, I'm gonna just stick with Kansas City.
I'm about to say I don't want the white sauce.
Yeah, I don't like the white sauce.
I hadn't heard of the white sauce.
I really don't like the white sauce. I'm like, I don't want that. It looks like Alfredo sauce. You know what I'm saying? I don't want that.
I'll tell you something funny. I'm from the East Coast originally, so I grew up in Virginia, North Carolina when I was real small. But barbecue there is pork. It's not like pulled pork. It's shredded pork with a vinegary type sauce and spice.
Right.
That's what I grew up on. So to me, that was barbecue. So when I came to Texas, I ordered some barbecue. My first time going out when I first moved to a restaurant, I ordered barbecue, and I looked at it. They brought me some. So I said, "This is a barbecue." So it's totally different.
Yeah, per region.
And when I go to North Carolina or Virginia to visit, I always buy some barbecue because I can't get that barbecue in Texas. So I'll buy a pound and bring it back just so I can have some with me at home. So I was playing with you, but it's interesting how different locations have created their own barbecues.
But see, this is what's funny. In the Two Lives of Sarah, Jonas and Sarah actually get into a little argument about which barbecue they feel is best, because he's like, it's Memphis, and she's like, no, it's Kansas City. You know what I mean? And it's kind of, they kind of get into that little thing where, you like you said, you got somebody from Texas and somebody from, North Carolina is repping their barbecue. It might be a fight. You don't know. Will the police be called? We don't know. They started talking about barbecue. All heck broke loose. We saw it. Everybody's fine now. We took care of it. Everybody's fine now.
Well, since we're at the last minute of our time, Catherine, show people again a cover of the Two Lives of Sarah. And 3 of our viewers already have their copies. So some of them may have read it, but the cover is beautiful, very eye-catching. And congratulations on your second book.
Thank you so much. It was so much fun doing this. I really appreciate you having me, Miss Gwen. Thank you, Rhonda. Your hair is banging. So is yours, Miss Gwen. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being a guest on the show and continued success with everything.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, so before we start on our book club kickback, I believe, and I wasn't sure about this, and I let Rhonda handle it, but I think Lydia answered this question first.
No,
about
actually,
this book.
what happened, you may have seen Lydia's comment.
Yes, I
But
did.
what happened was Stephanie responded she had replied and responded directly to the question, and she did it 2 minutes prior to
Oh,
I checked, there were 3 people who answered the question, and what I did was I checked the times, and if you look,
okay,
yeah, and I just want to be fair.
okay,
Stephanie responded 46 minutes ago. Lydia responded 49 minutes ago, and then she responded again 52 minutes ago.
okay. All right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
like I say, I let Rhonda handle that part, and I
Well,
just
actually, wait a minute. Let me back up.
okay. All right.
No,
We want to get it
okay.
right because these
Well-
books are in a it's high demand. It's a special thing.
Okay, but what I'm trying to say is, okay, no, let me look at it again. And actually, if I'm gonna look at the timestamps one more time. And I think we can go ahead and go with Lydia. I'm looking at the timestamps one more time, and I read them wrong. And Lydia was
Okay.
actually the one who got it first.
Okay, well, we want to be, we always like to be fair to everyone because there's no preferential treatment.
There's no preferential treatment whatsoever.
Nothing. If you answer it right first, you get it. And so that's what happens.
And there have been times where we saw the wrong person, and the person would message me and say, hey, I think I might have gotten it first. And then I have no problem with taking a look again just to make sure.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the responses come in quickly. So
they do come in fast. Back to back.
We don't want anybody to think that we prefer one winner over another. We love everybody.
We love everybody.
And Miss Lydia, I love you too.
Yeah.
And this is your book.
Yeah. So the book will go out tomorrow. And I don't know if we ever got a response for the Dick Gregory book. Did we ever
We never got a response for the Dick Gregory book.
Okay, well, if someone responds later on, we can send the book out to them. So now we're going into the second half of our show where we'll be discussing this book, The Exes. And I read this book over the weekend. Well, no, not over the weekend, before the weekend, because our book club read the book and we discussed it on Saturday. So the discussion is fresh in my mind. And we're going to we have book club members waiting to come on, and we have the author waiting to come on. So we're going to bring the people on who signed in, and let me see, am I missing anyone? This one and that one. And we want to welcome them all to the show and to our book club kickback for this quarter, where we're discussing The Exes with none other than the author himself, Brandon Massey, who's on. So everybody, welcome.
How y'all doing? Thank you.
Hello. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are y'all doing?
Wonderful.
Doing great. So we want to first see which book clubs are represented on the kickback. And if you can just, each person name your club and where you're located physically in terms of city, state. So we'll start with Patricia Crow Davis.
Hi, ladies of color, turning pages, Los Angeles County, California.
Okay. Kenya Irvin.
Hello, Kenya Irvin, Soul Sisters Book Club, Chattanooga, Tennessee.
All right. Kay, Larry.
Hi, I'm Kay Larry, City Book Club, Houston.
Okay,
Hello.
so you represent, she reps two clubs. So tonight she's repping the Kush City Book Club.
Okay.
Dr. Lauren Gilbert Smith.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Bye-bye.
Where are you located and what's the name of your book club?
Dallas, Texas, Black Pearls, Keeping It Real.
All right.
Okay, and Royce Slade Morton. Let me see. I don't know, maybe they left the computer. Royce Slade Morton? No. Okay, well, maybe they'll come back on. All right, well, we want to get right into the
I'm
book.
sorry, I was
Oh.
talking, but I was still muted. This is Royce Slade Morton in Upper Marlboro from the Sweet Soul Sisters Book Club.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
Marlboro, Maryland.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so we're really geographically represented. We got the West Coast, we got the mid-Atlantic, and we got
Mhm.
Texas, two people
Mhm.
from Texas, so including
Yeah.
me. So first, I want to say this book was a page turner. Our book
Thank you.
club really liked it, and it's for those who haven't read it yet. If you want to read a book with a lot of drama and a very well written villainous character, this is it. This is it. The book was real. I mean, it's a great discussion book. So any book clubs who want to read it for a discussion, it's a great discussion book. I think we talked about this book we spent more time talking about this book than we have some of our more recent reads that we had.
Okay, good.
So let's get the impressions of the other book clubs about what they thought about the book. Anybody can chime in whenever you're ready to chime in. So nobody's chiming in, so that means I need to name people. So, so I'll start with Patricia again.
Well, I read just about all Brandon Massey's books. And as a group, we read just about all of them. If they don't read them, I read them. Now, this particular female character was crazy, crazy. But it happens so often. I mean, it's not unusual for people to hook up with folks and they're beautiful, but something
off.
Something's not clicking up there. So Naomi and the whole family was crazy.
Yeah. Naomi was the leader of the crazies. Brandon described her as a sociopath. I'm not sure the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath, but
let's let Brandon tell us what that is. What's the difference?
I don't know. Yeah, Brandon, do you know?
I mean, it's sociopathy. Honestly, I've been more focused about writing about a sociopathic character. When I think of a psychopath, I usually think of some lone killer, serial killer type person. I'm sure there's a more of a clinical definition, but for this particular character, she really fit that sociopathic model. And then, I know the book clubs want to chime in, but one of the things with this particular story, I've written stories about stalker, obsessive type people before, but what I really wanted to do with this one was really expand upon. So the opening quote says, when you marry someone, you marry their entire family. And that's really true. And that can be good or bad. And I wanted to really explore what that would mean if a character who, Austin is just a very easygoing, mellow, non-violent person. What would happen if he hooked up with somebody drawn in by her, her looks, the physical attraction he had to her? And he just gets sucked in, and then it turns out that not only is she off, but her family is off. Because think about it, these are the people that she comes from. So it's not like it just sprang up out of nowhere. I mean, these traits that she's got, they have some of that too. And it was just, I wanted to just explore what would that look like to just have a whole group of people that were united in this, this demented plan. And, not necessarily that they were all 100% on board with it. Like the sister, Charlotte, she had some reluctance, but they still did it, and that's the bottom line is they still, even though they may have had some doubts about it, they still went along with Naomi because she was that strong personality that was really the driver behind, you know, not just what they were doing with Austin, but really pretty much everything that was going on in their family unit. But I just wanted to just throw that out
Yeah.
Well, you
Well,
see so often where men are attracted, not all men, but they're attracted to the physical. And
Yes.
and they say, well, the physical will go away. What will happen after that? But I have two nephews that they looking for tens, dimes.
Yeah.
And I keep
Yeah.
trying to tell them, you better start peeling back some of those layers.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Right.
like an onion, because you're going to start crying.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of times, people who, I mean, so and some of these are stereotypes, but a lot of times people who are, tens are considered to be 10, so they're surprisingly insecure people,
Mhm.
because they rely so much on their looks, and they have to be constantly reinforced, and they a lot of times they can be needy. It's just
Yeah.
it's more than a notion. So and looks don't last. That's the other thing. So
Right.
the person has to have beauty on the inside that comes
Right.
out. Otherwise, you can really get tripped up on just that looks thing. So Kenya, you're next in terms of being beside Patricia on the screen. So what's your feedback about the book? What did you think about it?
Okay, so actually, our club has not read this book, but we've read books by Mr. Massey before. So I was just excited for the opportunity to be on
Cool.
this meeting and just to meet him and just to
Thank
kind of
you.
get an idea of where he gets his ideas from.
Sure.
And I
Sure.
wanted to hear feedback from some of the other book clubs about this book. Our club has been on a hiatus because we've just been, it's been a lot going on. And
Right.
so I think this is probably going to be one of our first books that we're going to read once we come back together.
Okay.
So
Sure.
that was my main goal for this one.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we read, well, I don't know if our club has read. We've read a lot of your books. I know I've read most of your books personally, but our club has read quite a few of your books as
Yeah.
well.
Thank you.
But one question I have is Naomi a real person? Or she just like somebody you created completely, or she's kind of, let me say, you were inspired to write Naomi based on something.
Let's
I
just
was
say
gonna
that.
ask the same question. I was like, is this for real?
Well, I will say, so I've been married 16 years, and my wife is nothing like Naomi, thank God. But when I was single, I did encounter, there's just one person in particular that I could think of who had some of those qualities, just very erratic. Just somebody who would just like that, just change. And um, I can't say that I saw her get violent, but it felt like the potential was there. And I just think, just thinking about possible inspirations for that character, certainly that person gave me like a starting point. And then I just, just kind of applied my imagination from there, just thinking, what if this, what if that. But what's interesting is I do read a lot of my reviews all my books. And with this book, I noticed one of the early reviewers said that this character, Naomi, was exactly like their husband's ex-wife, like exactly the same. Like, that's kind of scary. like, like, I mean, they said everything, like the violence, just everything.
Oh, wow.
Right.
It is scary.
Right. Yeah, it is.
That is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never encountered anybody like Naomi that I know of. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes when people are like that, they have highs and lows. You know, I might have been around one when they were on their low.
Yes.
And didn't know. But
Yeah, I think she really probably would be bipolar.
yeah.
You know, and clearly she needs counseling.
I don't know if
Because
counseling would help
you
me.
think they're drugs, medication? Because just think about when, early in the story when she's introduced, and literally she just gets out of prison and her family takes her to Waffle House. And she's like, oh, finally, I get to eat some real food. And then she has this just really minor exchange with this woman bringing in her son, and she doesn't like how the woman responds to it. And then she's just like, oh no, I ain't having that. So she, uh, uh, jabs a knife in the woman. So she thinks the woman's tires, thinks it's her car, and her family is just like, oh, there you go, you back to your old ways, and they're just like that, just accepting that's just how she is, And I've certainly been around people who would just do something like that. They feel like somebody slighted them. A lot of brothers, I would say, I've been almost gotten in fights with dudes where they just say, I didn't like how you looked at me. Like, it's just, I don't know you, but you just give somebody a look that they don't like, they're ready to fight. People have been shot over stuff like that.
Yep.
It's crazy.
That is true.
So
That's true.
that definitely has some basis in real real behavior. Even though it's just crazy. Like me personally, I'm probably more like Austin, where I'm just, I have my limit, but I'm just going to be kind of tolerating a lot of stuff. Probably not. I don't think I tolerate somebody just slapping me, but she's just slapping the mess out of him, and he had his reasons for not responding in a violent way. His own personal traumatic experience really kept him from, being more physically aggressive toward her. But I do know men like that. They will just put up with all kinds of abuse, physical, emotional. And what was interesting with this story is, so often we hear about, women abusing or men abusing women, which is obviously a lot more common.
Right.
But you do still see some men who get abused, and a lot of people, they don't take them seriously. They're just like, you could stop it if you wanted to. You just, they call the cops are laughing at them. So it's like,
this is why men don't report abuse.
Right, exactly. And some women who they know they can get away with it. And you saw how in the stories, Naomi was constantly throwing that in his face. It's like, I'll call. What are you gonna do? You gonna hit me? I'll call the police on you, black man. And she knew, okay, that would shut him down. So she was very manipulative in knowing how she could kind of keep him in line. And from a lot of the book, he just went along with it.
So, Dr. Lauren, what are your thoughts about the book? You need to unmute. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay.
I have not read the book, and but I believe that is one of the books that our members have selected, and I wanted to call in and listen to everyone's feedback. We're reading Kimberly
Lawson Roby.
Right, we're reading her book this month.
Okay.
So and some of those women were crazy in that book too. Not quite, not quite. But I'm looking forward to reading it.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, since you were part of our book club discussion, you want to just give some feedback?
Yes, I was going to say, we thought it was a exciting book. It moved from start to finish. And sometimes in our book club, we discuss other things, but because the book had so much in it, so much drama, we talked about the book the whole hour.
Oh, okay.
So different details, and it was, I think it was highly rated, but it was also a great discussion. The fact that she was crazy was interesting to see the things that she did. Now, someone said it was predictable, but it wasn't predictable as far as what she was going to do. It was just predictable that she was going to show up and be crazy.
Right,
but what she did once she showed up, that was not predictable. And even like the twists and turns at the end, it was just an exciting book. I think we may have said, I thought it would be a great Lifetime movie because it had all the drama of a Lifetime movie. It moved like a Lifetime movie. I read the book Saturday morning before the book club discussion, and it was just exciting.
Wow, thank you.
So I really liked it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it got a very high rate. So from our club members. So Royce, are you here? Did you leave the room again?
No, I didn't leave. I just have music in the background. That's why I wasn't saying too much. But my book club did read the book, and we did have some discussions on it and everything. And like I said, one of the questions was, is this based on a true character? That was with Naomi and Austin, and so, I always, sometimes I have a different opinion when it comes to things, and they laugh at me because I've been married for 41 years. And so, but it's true that when you get married, you marry the family. It was a page turner. We laughed, we drank, we laughed, and we talked about the book. And then we was trying to figure out if we had some members in our book club that had that Naomi personality. So, but overall, we gave it a good rating as well, and it was really good.
Thank you very much.
And this is not the first of your books that we read either. So,
okay, cool. Thank you.
Now, our club thought Austin was too wimpy, and we were glad when he finally got some gumption and took some action.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, did you intentionally write him like that? I guess it was intentional. You wrote him, but what was your thinking behind creating Austin's character?
Well, so with Austin, so in the first chapter, it opens up in the restaurant, and she's, Naomi's about to lose it because she thinks he's cheating on her, or she thinks he's thinking about cheating on her due to his brief interaction with somebody from college. In that first chapter, I mentioned how Austin he grew up in a household with an abusive father, saw his father actually, basically kill his mother. Hits her, he punches her, she hits her head, she, dies from that injury. So early on, he is a child who was exposed to domestic violence. And so from my perspective, I have been through that. I've been that boy who saw that type of stuff. I didn't see a murder, but almost. I mean, it was bad. So I'm very, very familiar with that and how that feels. And you really do grow up. Those experiences stay with you. You grow up saying, I would never do that. I think you could take one or two paths. You could grow up thinking that that's normal, and that's how you deal with conflict. You hit somebody. Or you could grow up with the opposite perspective of, I never want to do that. I never want to hit anyone. That's not how I would ever defend myself. And that's really the path that Austin chooses deliberately. he knows that throughout the story, he knows that she's trying to provoke him. And he's making a really strong effort to keep himself under control and to keep himself from responding with a physical, with a physical response of, like just hitting her or, throwing her or something like that, which, she just keeps trying to push and push and push him. So yeah, I did deliberately make him a guy who is very much opposed to dealing with things in a violent way. Because honestly, I think that's, for one, for someone with his background, I thought that would be realistic, but also because I think, even though I know some readers would start out they would initially see him as weak, but I think you see the progression of his character in the course of the story, where he finally gets pushed to the limit, and
Yeah, he
and he
does.
responds in a way where he finally kind of puts her in her place. But even then, he doesn't go as far as he could go. I mean, he could just have beaten the mess out of her, but he didn't. He basically just shoved her. She hit her head. She was knocked out for a bit. But yeah, I mean, I think it makes it more interesting. And I try to do this with all of my stories, where I take the main character. I like to show their progression, how they respond to the conflict that continues to build. Their characters should continue to evolve in how they respond to things. Ultimately, they reach some type of point where they realize, I have to do something different here. And he realized with Naomi, just past like 3/4 of the way through, he finally realized, I just can't deal with her like I'm trying to deal with a rational person.
Right.
I just can't. I've been trying all this time, and it's just not going to work, period. And it almost just came out, he kind of just exploded. It's impulsive. And that was what he needed to do, to finally at least get control of the situation. With some people, that's the only language that they respond to. You can't talk them out of it. You can just, oh, why don't you calm down? You don't need to do that. You don't need to hit. Why are you slapping me? She's just not going to respond to that. He had to literally put her in her place, and then he could go out and find his wife, find his son, get their lives back. But it took the progression of his character, which it was interesting, because not only is she pushing him, but his son is pushing him. His son is just, early on, his son clearly wants to be with his mother. And Austin is just like, you don't know her. You don't want, that's a bad idea. And his son, so it becomes a point of conflict between them. So he's really getting it from both sides, from his son, from his ex-wife, even with Brooke to some extent. She's like, look, why are you putting up with this abuse? I'm not going to just sit here and let this happen to you. I'm involved with this too. We're going to call the police. We're going to document this. We're going to file a report. We're going to get a restraining order. We're going to do all these things. And, she just says, I'm not waiting for you to give me permission. I'm just doing it. So, and he just goes along with it. But yeah, he's one of those slow to anger type people, where, yeah, he could have just beat her down early on.
Right.
And that would have been the end of it.
But then you wouldn't have had a story.
Right. And also, I don't think you would, as a reader, would really have respected him if he did that.
Right. You kind of
No.
Right, you're right,
we were cheering for him and we actually cared about him. But if he had responded to her in that way at the very beginning, not so much that you wouldn't have had a story, but you would have villainized them right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Now the son was kind of typical of what happens in some divorce situations, where the child sees the favorable or fun parent to be the one that's not there.
Exactly.
You know, the one that's there day in and day out, and they're there for you and having to deal with discipline and structure and, you know, keeping things organized. That's the parent that you think is holding you back, and you want to be with what you consider to be the fun parent,
The fun,
in
yes.
which case is Naomi. And that, you know, that happens in in divorce situations. That's
Yeah, it gets really messy.
very common.
Yeah, where you know, she shows up with, you know, gifts. She gives him the iPhone, which obviously Austin did not want him to have.
Right.
She does all this stuff without even talking to him. Keeps it secret. Don't
And
tell
tells
him.
him to keep it a secret.
Yeah, tells him to keep it
Tells the
secret.
12-year-old to keep it
Yeah,
a secret.
yeah, you know, and
His father.
what's interesting is, you know, I was doing some research about these types of situations where one of the parents has been incarcerated. And yeah, in that situation, you as the parent who's not incarcerated, yeah, you can get those rights, that custody of that child. But then once that person gets released, you know, if they're free, they can now say, hey, I want custody too. I want joint custody, which you know, in the situation in the story was obviously a terrible idea because she's not fit to be somebody's parent, you know, but that's just not how it would have to play out in the courts, and it would just be really messy. And it just fascinated me how, you know, that type of stuff actually goes on, where somebody could be in prison for a decade, come out and just, oh, I want to see my son, and like,
Right.
you can't stop it, you know. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's sort of and you know, children, they have a fantasy sometimes about the absent parent, about how
yeah,
great it would be if that person was there, but they're not there, which is
mhm,
the whole real point. And they don't have to be incarcerated. They may just not be there. They may
right,
be out of town or just not be involved, you know. But that
yeah,
can happen.
yeah. And
And
I've been through, you know, not the incarceration part, but you know, having a parent who wasn't around. And when you would see this person, they would say, oh, well, your mother is, she talks, she's lying, you know. They try to kind of turn you against the, you know, the person who's taking
Mhm.
care of you. um,
okay, that
I
yeah,
would,
that
you
sometimes.
know, you
Mhm,
see that sometimes. So
mhm.
like with Naomi, you know, she was aware that, you know, the son Kari did want to spend time with her, and so she felt he was a means. He was using him as a way to kind of manipulate Austin, you know, to doing what ultimately she wanted both of them to come back to, you know, their farm and live there again, which, you know, clearly wasn't going to happen. But yeah,
Yeah, she was trying to recreate the happy family that never existed.
yeah, that never existed in the first place. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Well, she was very well developed. You know, all the characters were well developed. Well, the main ones, because you know, sometimes you have major characters and then you have minor characters.
Mhm.
But the major characters were very well developed, um, which was
Yeah.
which
Thank you.
really made the story move.
Thank you.
It
Thank you. Do you have a
chime
question?
in, Patricia.
Yes, the relationship between Naomi and her father, what made you develop that?
Yeah, that was
That was twisted.
that was weird. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a twist.
you know, I was just I was just thinking, what, it was funny when I didn't have that idea initially when I came up with the story, but then I was thinking like, what would be a really interesting twist to have about three-fourths of the way through that would just completely turn everything upside down. And that's what came to me. And so whenever I get an idea like that, my next thought is, well, how can I at least try to make it somewhat believable that that would actually happen? And so we saw early on when Naomi was introduced, and she went to see her father again. One of the things that one of the thoughts she had about him was that he was like the ultimate man, like the end all be all when it comes to men. It's like, oh, he used to look like a young Harry Belafonte, in his prime. So, and then there was also a history of incest in their family between, her father and her mother. They were cousins. So that type of thing was not necessarily foreign to them. So one of the things that I think the twist is so shocking to some people that they believe that it's not real. Like they think that Naomi was lying, and she just said that to Austin to screw with his head. And I thought, well, could she have done something like that? Was she lying? I think Austin would probably, after the main story is over, I actually could see them wanting to get a DNA, like a paternity test.
Yeah, that was the conclusion we reached at the meeting.
I think just for his own peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
I think for his own peace of mind, he would want to do that because he would think, okay, maybe it's true, but what if she's lying? Because that's just what she did. She just lied about so many things to try to manipulate me. So what if she did that just to try to hurt me, just to try to get some type of revenge on me? So I do think that he would actually take that next step and get a paternity test. So I mean, the way I wrote it, I intended it to be at least viewed that it probably could be true, but I didn't put in an epilogue that said, oh, okay, when it was all done, they went and got a paternity test and this is what it said. I didn't do that, but I kind of want to leave that a little bit open. But I do think clearly there was an inappropriate relationship between Naomi and her father. You just saw how she would interact with him, sitting on his lap, running her hands through his hair, what he had left of his hair, kissing him on the lips. Just like, that's just not, no. There's something not right there. There's something not right. It's not right.
It sounds like you were very, very intentional with your character development.
Yeah.
Because just listening to you, you sound like you're describing someone like an actual human rather than a character. So it seems like every character has some real life aspects, which helps the reader to really identify with each of these characters.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think we've either seen or heard of things like that, where you see this father and daughter interacting. You're like, that's not, you're just thinking, that's not right. So I think we've all kind of seen that type of situation, and it just kind of lodged in our head as inappropriate. So that's really what I was kind of working with their relationship. It's kind of building the case of, well, she said that this happened. She says that that's if her father is Kari's father. Is it true? We've seen enough where we think, well, it could be true.
Mm-hmm.
And it was certainly enough. Austin had certainly seen enough to think that it probably was true. But I do think he would say, I need to find out for sure. And he would get that paternity test. And, either way, the son at Kari, he's going to need some serious therapy. I mean, after what he's seen.
Yeah, he needed a little bit more. He needed what they call that leather strap therapy. Because I was through with him when he locked the door. Because I don't, and then he wouldn't open the door. Oh no. But children will do whatever the parents allow you to do. That's, that's what they'll do. And if you let them run you, they will run over you. You have to keep control. You have to start when they're little in diapers.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what you have to do it like that. Now, I like that you kind of trick the reader, because on this cover, it looks like the male, would be Austin, is the one that's has the deep-seated issues. And instead, it's her. She just looks kind of normal, So
I admit that too. When I saw that cover, I automatically assumed it would be the guy.
Yeah, it made you,
it made you
because
think
he's
that.
dark. He's dark. All the aura around him is darkness.
Brandon said, y'all not gonna keep stereotyping the men.
Yeah, see, he didn't do anything wrong. He was just pissed off at that point. That's when he got mad. It's like, I gotta do something
he
about
finally got some gumption, but it took him a while. It took him, Now when and I don't want to give away the whole plot of the book, so I have to say this, let's see, in code kind of, but when they, the whole thing about inviting them over for dinner, that whole thing was so, it was very well written, but it was predictable. And I'm like, how could they not see this coming? But they're characters, they're not real people.
Yeah, I think for Austin, he thought, well, if Naomi isn't here, maybe they'll act kind of normal. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, because she's really been was really the one driving a lot of this
Or so
outrageous
he thought.
behavior. Yeah, so he thought, okay, so there was a few things going on there. So he thought, okay, if she's not here, maybe I can have a normal interaction with him. But also, prior to him and letting them come over for dinner, he had this really emotional discussion with Kari, where Kari was just basically broke down crying, saying, I just want to spend time with my family.
Yeah.
So Austin thought, if I allow him to spend time with his grandparents and his aunt, I can kind of be the hero in the eyes of my son and show him that I'm willing to compromise a little bit and give him what he wants. And so that was really the main reason why he went along with it, is he was trying to appease his son, because he has kept his son from his grandparents and his aunt. And I think he had some mixed feelings about that. He didn't, he just wanted to kind of shut off that part of his life, but ultimately he had kept his son from the boy's grandparents. So when Edward showed up and basically was saying, oh, we just want to have dinner, before we go.
Yeah, well,
okay.
Guilt can make you do some stupid stuff. So
yeah,
that's
good intentions, but
yeah.
it was bad.
This is why I don't miss my 20s. I love being in my 40s.
Yeah, the 20s, that's a decade of adventure, but it's also the decade of stupid decisions.
True. Yep.
And you just, by the grace of God, they didn't like take you under or really just get you in a really horrible situation. But you don't know what you don't know. That's the problem. But that whole setup was very well written, even though it was I was yelling at them. No, don't, I was yelling at them. Why don't you see it?
Yeah. Don't let them come over.
Don't let them in. But you had to write the story, so we're getting close to the end of our time. So if any more people have questions, present them, and because we're going to give away our 3 autographed copies of the X. So does anybody else have questions for Brandon?
I don't have a question. I just will say, Brandon, I know someone, like you were saying, that would take a lot off of someone that's witnessed some form of abuse, and I'm like, call the police. What are you doing? They out of control, and they're like, no, I got to get them help, and will not put their hands on the person, no matter what the person's doing. And I'm like, call. But and in a lot of ways, I can't do anything but respect them for that.
Right.
A lot of ways. But yeah, nice, good, exciting.
Thank you.
Appreciate. I'm like Gwen, that dinner scene, I kept screaming. What are you doing? You got them nuts up in there and you eating food too? It would have been like, I would have brought my own food. No,
They
I
wouldn't have
would've
been
brought
at my
out the big
house.
baggie.
They would not have been at my house, period.
No.
We have
would've
to
had
correspond some other way. We have to do a Zoom
Yeah,
call.
Y'all got me itching to read.
No.
Need them at a
when you get people,
restaurant.
when you get people in your house, how you gonna get them out? You physically, just from a physical standpoint, you can't force somebody to get out, especially if they're physically larger than you are. So, but it was good storytelling. I don't know where you came up with that idea. And and then what made you have them basically be independently wealthy with the orchard?
I just thought it would be interesting. I hadn't written a story that took place in a place like, in an environment like that before. And so, I read the newspaper a lot, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, other newspapers. And there was a story that ran last year sometime about pecan farming. And I just thought, it just interested me because here in Georgia, the pecans are, huge deal, huge part of the agricultural economy. So I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if you had an African-American family that owned a huge orchard, and that was just kind of enabled them to do the things that they did. One of the things that when I first started the story, one of the images that I had was this gigantic RV that this family would just travel around in. And they're just this family of lunatics, and they would just go all over the place. And because they had the house on wheels, you could never, you couldn't get rid of them. You could say, get out of here. And they would just drive off, and then they come back, so it was just, I just wanted to play with that whole idea. And it just kind of all that just came together. And, what you try to do with these types of stories is you like to have an environment where you can isolate your characters. And so with them having this orchard with, 1,800 or so acres, they could pretty much do whatever they wanted to do. They could have people prisoner at one of these properties. They could just do whatever they wanted. So that was kind of where it all came from. Was just wanting to do something a little different, colorful, and just try to mix things up, compared to, this is my 15th novel. So at this point, I'm trying to just like, I got to do something different. I can't do the same type of thing over and over again.
Right.
People get bored with that. So just trying to think of ways to throw in interesting twists and ideas to keep readers,
And it keeps you fresh.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But that's where it came from.
Well, this one definitely had a very memorable storyline. I mean, it's and relatable, even though I don't know anybody like Naomi, but you see people on the news who do crazy stuff, over relationships, like that woman, I forgot what city she was in. I think it was in California, the one that sped through the red light because she was at something about, she was trying to commit suicide and ended
Well,
up
she
killing.
wasn't trying to commit suicide. They just had her on and
Oh, they
she's trying to
did?
get her bail changed because it's $9 million.
Wow.
And
Well, she killed 6 people though.
yeah, they said, and she's a nurse, a traveling nurse. They just took a license, but they said that now they're saying she's bipolar and she had an episode where she went unconscious because she went 130 miles per hour through
Well,
this.
it looked like it in the video. I haven't been following the story, but I know,
Oh.
you know, that's one of the things in the news that you see people doing things that are just crazy, you know. And unfortunately, in this case, 6 people died.
And she's beautiful.
No.
If you ever saw her picture before she went to jail, gorgeous, just gorgeous.
Well, let me,
But
I'm gonna go
Craig,
off camera for 1 second. You all can continue to talk. I'm gonna get the books, the autographed books, and then we're gonna do our giveaway.
Okay.
Giveaway.
Brandon, I really enjoyed it. Please keep it up. Keep
Thank
writing.
you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
So is there another book on the horizon?
There's always another one. I can't always know exactly when it'll be done, but there's definitely another one. I have probably at least 2 ideas that I'm working on. So hopefully it'll the next year. I'll have one of those out. But yeah,
Okay.
always something going on.
What books does this make for you now? I think we talked about this the last time you were on the show.
So the X's was the 15th novel. But I've actually had about 20 books published, and some of them are story collections.
Anthologies.
Right. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is novel number 15. Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, so we have 3 copies of the X-Files, and he put them in like plastic.
Yeah.
And we're giving away
Alright.
3 of them, 1, 2, 3, and they're autographed. And so to get a copy of the book, you'll have to answer the first one to answer these trivia questions. We're gonna do the questions one at a time and then get the answer. If you're on the Zoom, you can do it in the chat on the Zoom. If you're watching live, you can do it on in the comments on the Facebook Live. Okay, here's the first question. And I have 5 questions. I didn't decide on which 3. Okay. What was Naomi's nickname that her family used for her? They gave her a nickname. And okay, and it has to be exact. So
Okay,
Patricia
so
answered, but it's not the exact name.
No.
okay.
Okay, she fixed it. Okay, so and did anybody do it on the live?
No.
No. Okay, so Patricia, you get a copy of the extras autograph. The answer was Peach. They
Okay,
referred to
yeah.
her as Peach a few
Okay,
times.
yeah.
in the
Shayna
story.
came in, but she said Peaches. So
Oh,
it was
yeah.
just Peach.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not Peaches, it's Peach. So
Peach.
Patricia, DM us your on the Facebook page, DM us your address, unless you've
Okay.
gotten a book from us before, which I don't know. So
Okay.
do it anyway. Just DM us your mailing address so we can see the book. Okay, here's the next one. Next question is, and Brandon said this but I had already written it up. So, but y'all don't know what it is. So anyway, Brandon said this early in the discussion. When Naomi was released from prison, which restaurant did she want to visit? Okay,
All right.
Kay said the Waffle House, and she was the first one that I saw. I don't know if anybody online, I don't see
You didn't even
anyone.
give me a chance to finish typing the question.
Well, if they were watching, they could have just answered it. So that is correct. The Waffle House is the right answer. So Kay gets that one. Let me put Patricia, got this one. Kay got the other one. Okay. Okay, here's the final question. So there's one more chance to win the book. When Brooke was trapped in the basement, which of Charlotte's prized desserts did she request?
You went deep with that. Yeah, think about
Yeah,
that.
they have to have read the book to get these.
I need to think about that. I just had to think for a
He
second.
was like, which dessert was it? That was a dessert.
Because Charlotte was a baker, she baked and
Right.
people liked her stuff. And the way that Brooke got her to leave and come back, she asked for this dessert and she gave it to her. So
I think Lydia's trying to type the answer, but I don't
see anybody that has answered it yet.
All right, come on, Lydia. You got this, girl. Oh, and by the way, that question from earlier, the very first question, Stephanie answered it.
Oh, okay. So it was Stephanie.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're gonna stop it one way or another. I'm gonna put
no. The very first question.
Oh, which one?
The one about Dick Gregory. She answered that one.
Oh, she answered that one. Okay.
Yeah. All right. And
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, now I don't know how you want to do this. I think Lydia was trying to type the answer. She didn't get it exactly right. Shana came in with pecan pie, and then Lydia said apple pie.
It wasn't either one of those.
Oh, I'm sorry, I tried.
It wasn't either one of those. So in order to get this third autograph book, somebody has to answer the question. And it was later in the book. It was like fourth. Okay, Patricia, you already got a book.
I know.
Well, you know what? You can give it to one of your book club members.
Right.
So we can do that. Because we're at the end of our time.
The answer was peach cobbler.
Yes, the answer was peach cobbler. So that was what she.
I was trying to hold on.
No, but yeah, you can give it to one of your book clubs. So when you
will.
The DM, make sure that you say 2 copies, because by tomorrow I might not remember any of this. So
you want me to DM you or to email you?
No, direct message me on the Facebook page, the
Okay, I will.
Facebook page. Okay, so we've given away the 3 copies, and we're at the end of our night for our book club kickback. And so, Brandon, let's give Brandon a hand for writing an amazing story that captivated the readers.
Thank you so much.
I hope the book's doing well.
It is.
Okay, good. It's a great word of mouth book. I mean, it's the kind of book that you say, girl, you got to read this, because people were nuts. Yeah. They were nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you to all the book clubs for participating in this kickback. We do these once a quarter, and so we really appreciate your participation and reading the books. What we do with these is, one, we want to help authors sell books, and that's what it's all about when people take the time to write their books. And so we do it for that reason, and then we want to expose the book and the contents and encourage other people who are watching to get the books too. So and we just want to support our African-American authors, and the book club kickbacks are always with well-established authors. So they're always with authors who have multiple books. So we appreciate you all for participating and taking the time, and we love all the book clubs and all the authors, and just thank you for being part of Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Good
Hopefully
night.
talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Thank you.
good night.
Bye.
And so that's the end of our show for this week. And we'll have another amazing show next Tuesday night on Black Authors Matter TV. If you haven't already gone on the National Black Book Festival's website to check out the schedule for this year's event, please do so. It's the hour by hour schedule. And we will be back next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central with another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off for tonight.
And
Okay,
I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. You have a great night and a wonderful week.
Thank you for tuning in and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.